Can you tell me about the pig pit?
Yes, I'm standing in front of the pig pit, and this was actually built by the same professor, Steve Bedaines, at the University of Washington. And since 1975, Uncle Bob Santos, he transferred the pig roast that he had every year from his yard to the garden. So it was a way for people in the community to come together and celebrate the garden and being part of the International District. So every year we get about 120 plus or minus pound pig, and so we roast it all night long, and we have special herbs that we put inside, and then we baste the pig all night. And so we get a couple hundred people coming through. It starts at night, they prep the pig, and then they baste it all night, and then have a big party. And then the next day the gardeners will come out for a potluck, and they get to have, you know, a piece of the juicy pig, and it's a lot of fun, and that happens every year for so many years.
Well, so they pull basically an all-nighter for the pig.
Yes, and the staff has to stay up all night too, so it's a fun time, but also a lot of work. So Uncle Bob Santos, the founder of Interim, and we have him to thank for this garden as well as the Wu family. And he helps prep the pig, and he has pig preppers in training, so it's community members who have been training to prep the pig for 20 to 30 years. And then the rest of the Interim staff come out and help out in different ways. And before, actually, they would go and find the pig at a farm, and they would kill the pig. But one year they had bad luck in trying to kill the pig, and so they were kind of traumatized by that, because it wouldn't actually die when they were chasing it and trying to kill it. So from then on, we've been calling up local, I guess, poultry and animal shops that we can get a huge pig delivered that's fairly prepared and gutted, and then the rest is done by Uncle Bob Santos and his crew.
Interesting. So, what kind of, do you know when the event will start, so maybe people could join and come from maybe across the world to see?
Yeah, so it's open to anyone. You don't have to RSVP. You can drop in. It's actually always the same weekend as Bonadori, which is a Japanese festival here in Seattle. So if you just look up Bonadori, which takes place on Saturday, our event takes place Friday until Saturday afternoon, and then Bonadori is the afternoon until the evening. So it's always the same weekend, and it's actually the weekend after the International District Street Fair. We never want to do it on the same weekend.
Well, I guess we're basically in the best view of the IED. So what can you tell us about this viewpoint?
Yeah, so this is the very top of the International District. It has a beautiful view, so it's very scenic and serene. And below us we have some terrace plots, so people who are disabled can actually take their wheelchairs down and garden and reach their garden plots. So you can pretty much see a lot of things from this viewpoint, all the different stadiums and the water, and then all the different garden plots as well. So with the different types of Asian vegetables, you know, if you look at certain plots, you can tell which is the Chinese gardener, which is the Korean gardener, just based on the diet and the types of food that they grow there.
Wow. So these are, just again, these are everyone's separate garden they focus on?
Yeah. Yep, so everybody has one or two plots at least, and some people share their plots. And so they eat their vegetables, and they sometimes they get seeds mailed from whatever country they come from in order to make sure they have the foods that they're used to eating. So, you know, bok choy or certain sesame leaves for Korean gardeners.
What can you tell me about the Kobe Pagoda?
So right behind us is Kobe Terrace Park, and it was named because there's this huge lantern there that was donated by the mayor of Kobe in Japan. And below the lantern it says something about, you know, Kobe, Japan, and Seattle being kind of sister cities to each other. So it's really nice. It was a very large donation to us, and it sits up there and it looks really nice.
as I can see, is there a park near it or with it?
Yeah, so Colby Terrace Park is actually owned by the City of Seattle Parks Department, and there seems to be a distinct difference between, the landscaping looks quite different than the garden, but the City of Seattle Parks Department also owns, a piece of our land as well, but they were generous enough to let us maintain it and put in garden plots.
Interesting. So, so everything here is basically kind of together, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it all works together, and so it's a really nice place to get, to see the garden and to see just a regular park and be kind of tucked away from the city and the hustle and bustle and the cars and the buildings, and actually be closer to nature. Because most of the trees in the Danny Wu Garden are fruit trees, so we have a lot of different types of apple trees. We have a fig tree, pear, cherries, an Asian pear, and plum. So anyone can come in and pick the fruit trees, but they can't pick the vegetables because that's all the hard work and labor of the gardeners.
How does someone, like an elder, right, be careful of the garden? So anyone with drugs or something doesn't mess with their garden?
Yeah, that's pretty tough. They create some sorts of barriers as much as possible in order to keep people out from picking their vegetables. But unfortunately, it's also a problem with the city pea patch system, is that people come in and steal vegetables. And it's hard to regulate because we're up on the hill and we're really isolated, secluded. And so someone can come in and do what they want, but that's where hopefully community members come together and people call law enforcement if there's illegal activity going on in order to keep it safe for the gardeners and visitors who are positive for this area.
Do you consider this one of the peaceful places in Seattle in ID?
Yeah, I would say so. It's definitely the gem of the International District and of the city. Not too many places where you have this much of a urban garden within, a very downtown urban setting. So we're very fortunate to have this huge space here. And not many people know about it that have lived here for many years. They don't know that tucked up on the top of the hill off of South Main Street near, what we call Japantown is the Danny Wu Garden. And so I encourage people to come up and check it out and take pictures and, enjoy the scenery and tell their friends.
Definitely a touring place. It's beautiful. And if it would be any other gem, I guess it would be an emerald, but it's awesome.